You could go hungry inside your own home full of food if you're missing these 12 emergency foods that require no preparation. When the power goes out, the stove stops working, the microwave can't be used, and water is limited. Many of the things you've stocked up on can suddenly become difficult to use. Rice needs to be cooked. Pasta needs water and heat. Dried beans take time. Frozen meat can't simply be taken out and eaten either. After just 1 or 2 days of disruption, the important question is no longer how much food you have in the house, but how much of it you can open and eat right away. That's why today's list focuses on 12 emergency foods that require no cooking, no electricity, and almost no preparation. And some of the most important items on the list don't even look like survival food. But they may be what determines whether your pantry can actually produce a meal or is just a room full of food you can't use yet. 12. Ready-to-eat emergency meals. MREs. Imagine it's the end of the second day of a power outage. There's still food in the house. But everyone is tired. The kitchen isn't functioning normally. Water needs to be conserved, and no one wants to stand there figuring out what to open or which ingredients to combine to make a meal. That's when MREs, prepackaged meals ready to eat, or similar products, show their value. MREs are useful during times when preparation needs to be reduced to almost nothing. These meals are usually sealed, contain several components in one package, and can be eaten directly according to the product instructions. Some come with their own heating system, but the main advantage is still that you don't have to depend on a stove or microwave. More importantly, most of the work involved in making a meal has already been done for you. In a prolonged situation, even the question, "What are we eating today?" creates one more decision when people are already tired or dealing with more important problems. But that convenience comes with one clear trade-off: price. MREs are usually much more expensive than ordinary ready-to-eat foods, so buying a large quantity may not be the most effective way to use your emergency food budget. The most expensive emergency food isn't necessarily the one you should buy the most of. If you want to stock MREs, try 1 or 2 packages before buying an entire case. Taste, portion size, and ingredients can vary significantly. A supply of expensive food that your family doesn't want to eat is not a good emergency reserve. Keep MREs in a cool, dry place and away from prolonged high temperatures. The USDLA lists a shelf life of about 3 years at 80 degrees, or roughly 27 degrees for military MREs. For commercial products, check the dates and instructions provided by the manufacturer. You should also inspect the packaging from time to time. If a pouch is punctured, leaking, swollen, or shows signs of damage, don't continue treating it as a reliable backup meal. So MREs should serve as one layer of backup, not the foundation of your entire food supply. Keep a moderate amount for the hardest moments. An extended power outage, having to leave home quickly, or when everyone is too exhausted to prepare food. MREs don't need to feed you through every meal. They just need to be there at the exact moment when you have almost no time or energy left to put a meal together. 11. Tortillas. Bread may seem like the natural choice when you think about a food you can open and eat right away. But in an emergency, bread also has a few weaknesses. It's fairly bulky, easily crushed when carried, and once the package is opened, its quality can decline quickly if it isn't stored properly. That's why tortillas are worth considering. Their greatest value isn't their nutrition. It's their ability to turn separate foods into a handheld meal in just seconds. Tortillas are flat, soft, easy to stack, and take up very little space. You don't need a plate, a fork, or a stove. Just place the food in the middle, fold or roll it up, and it's ready to eat. Tuna can provide protein, but a tortilla makes it easier to hold and feel more like a meal. Canned beans, chicken, or peanut butter can be used the same way. Here's a useful way to look at your pantry. Don't just ask, "Is this item good?" Also ask, "What can this item do with the things I already have?" A simple package of tortillas can make many other foods easier to use without requiring additional water, heat, or utensils. And compared with relying entirely on pre-packaged emergency meals, this is often a more affordable way to create different kinds of meals from ordinary ingredients. However, tortillas aren't the kind of food you buy and forget about for years. Shelf life varies by brand, ingredients, and storage conditions, so check the date on the package. Before opening, keep them in a dry place away from heat and high humidity. After opening, reseal the package tightly and follow the manufacturer's instructions. If you plan to keep tortillas in an evacuation bag or vehicle, don't leave them in a hot environment for long periods. The simplest approach is to rotate them. If your family regularly eats tortillas, use the older package first and replace it with a new one. Before buying a large amount, try a few types to find out which size and texture actually work best. Because tortillas don't need to be the strongest item in your pantry. Their value lies in how one very simple food can make many other foods easier to eat, easier to carry, and easier to turn into a meal. 10. Ready-to-eat canned soup, stew, after several meals made up entirely of dry foods like crackers, nuts, or jerky. The problem is no longer just whether you have enough food. Meals begin to lack moisture, softness, and the feeling of being easy to eat. That's when canned soup or stew shows its advantage. One may contain meat, beans, vegetables, potatoes, noodles, or starches, all in broth or a thin sauce. One can provide both food and some liquid within the meal itself. The broth doesn't replace stored drinking water, but when water has to be carefully rationed, a food that doesn't need extra water to become edible has a clear advantage. There's one very important detail to look for when shopping. Ready-to-eat soup and condensed soup are not the same thing during a power outage. Ready-to-eat soup can be consumed directly if the product is labeled ready to eat. Heating may make it taste better, but it isn't necessarily required. Condensed soup, on the other hand, usually requires added water. On an ordinary day, that difference is very small. But when water is limited, having to use extra water just to prepare a can of soup takes away part of its advantage. So if you're buying for a no-cook emergency supply, read the label carefully and prioritize ready-to-eat varieties. Store cans in a dry, relatively cool place. If a can is swollen, leaking, heavily rusted, or deeply dented along the seam, it should not be used. If you don't have a working refrigerator, an open can should also be treated as a portion you can finish in one sitting. Soup doesn't solve the entire water problem, but it does something most dry foods can't. It brings food and liquid into the same meal while changing the eating experience after days of dry, repetitive meals. 9. Canned fruit. By the second or third day, the problem with an emergency food supply may not be a lack of food. Sometimes, the problem appears much sooner. Everything starts to feel the same. After a few days, many foods can begin to create the same kind of experience. Dry, salty, dense, and repetitive. Crackers, jerky, nuts, and many canned foods still provide nourishment, but your desire to eat them may gradually fade. Food fatigue sometimes sets in before food shortage. Canned fruit helps break that cycle. It adds something to your food supply that isn't easily measured on a nutrition label. Contrast in flavor, texture, and moisture. A few pieces of canned peaches, pears, pineapple, or mandarin oranges provide sweetness after several salty meals. The soft texture feels completely different from crackers or jerky. The juice or syrup in the can also makes the meal feel less dry. There's no need to turn canned fruit into a survival superfood. Its value is much simpler. It makes you want to eat again. When people in the house are tired, stressed, or simply bored with the same foods, a familiar flavor can make a meal considerably easier to eat. This is also why you shouldn't build an emergency food supply based only on calories. You may have enough energy on paper, but if most of the food has the same flavor, the same texture, and the same feeling when you eat it, that menu quickly becomes difficult to face. With canned fruit, choose the kinds your family actually likes. Don't buy 10 cans of pineapple just because they're on sale if no one in your house normally wants to eat pineapple. Peaches, pears, pineapple, or mandarin oranges can all work, but the best option is still the one you know will actually be opened and eaten. Can size is also worth considering. During a power outage, a small can that's just enough for one serving may sometimes be more practical than a larger, cheaper can that leaves leftovers you have no way to keep cold. If a can has been opened and can't be refrigerated, it's best to plan on finishing it during that meal instead of counting on saving the rest. For unopened cans, simply rotate them with your everyday food. Use the older cans first, replace them with new ones, and inspect the packaging periodically. Because in the end, an emergency food is only truly valuable when the people in the house want to eat it when they need it. Canned fruit isn't the strongest option if you only look at calories or protein. Its value lies in keeping meals varied, pleasant, and appealing enough that people actually want to eat them. 8. Crackers. If you only look at the nutrition label, crackers may not seem substantial enough to belong on this list. They don't stand out for protein. They don't contain much moisture. And by themselves, they don't make a complete meal. But the value of crackers lies somewhere else. They give structure to the way you eat other foods. Take tuna, for example. You can open a pouch of tuna and eat it directly. Nutritionally, the amount of protein in that pouch of tuna remains the same. But when you place portions of tuna on crackers, the way the meal unfolds changes. You have clearly defined bites. You eat more slowly. You can divide the portion more easily. And instead of feeling like you're temporarily eating straight from a food pouch, you begin to have something closer to an actual meal. The calories may not change much, but the way people experience the meal does. Crackers are especially useful in that way. You can spread peanut butter on each one. Use them with canned or pouched chicken. Eat them with tuna. Or pair them with a spreadable cheese if that's something your family already eats and you have suitable storage conditions. Crackers themselves don't need to carry the entire meal. They only need to make other foods easier to eat, easier to portion, and more structured. That ability to divide food into portions is also very practical when you want to control how much you're using. Eating directly from a jar of peanut butter or a large pouch makes it difficult to notice how much you've consumed. With crackers, you can decide on a fixed amount for each meal in advance, then add the appropriate topping. No scale needed, no measuring needed. The form of the food naturally helps you divide it into smaller portions. The weakness of crackers lies in their crispness. Once the package is opened, air and moisture can quickly make them go soft. A large package may sometimes be cheaper, but for a smaller household, several small packages may be more practical because you only open the amount you need. Keep them sealed, away from damp areas, and rotate them as a normal food instead of buying them and forgetting about them. And don't let the word survival on the packaging determine your choice. A regular cracker your family enjoys and already knows how to pair with other foods is often more useful than a specialized product that no one wants to touch when it's actually needed. Crackers don't add protein to tuna or calories to peanut butter. Their value lies in turning separate portions into a meal with more rhythm, clearer servings, and a more recognizable form. And during a period when many other things have been disrupted, the feeling that you're still eating a real meal has value of its own. 7. Canned, pouched chicken. Not everything in an emergency food supply needs to look like a product made specifically for survival. Some foods work well precisely because they're so familiar. Canned or pouched chicken is one example. Its advantage doesn't come from being unusual, but from being too familiar to create additional friction at mealtime. If your family already eats chicken, you don't need to wonder how to use it, whether the flavor will be too unfamiliar, or whether everyone will be willing to eat it. If you're buying it for a no-cook food supply, choose a commercially cooked product whose label says it's ready to eat. Pouches are more compact and lighter. With cans, pull-tab lids are also useful because you don't have to depend on a can opener. You can eat it directly when necessary. But chicken becomes truly versatile when paired with foods you already have. Put it in a tortilla, and it becomes the filling for a handheld meal. Place it on crackers, and you have small portions that are easy to divide and eat. Mix it with canned beans, and the meal becomes more substantial without requiring you to turn on the stove. Or add it to a can of ready-to-eat soup to increase the amount of meat with almost no additional work. That's the everyday advantage of this food. You don't have to learn how to eat it. You don't have to get used to an unfamiliar flavor. You don't have to wait until the power goes out to try it for the first time. Chicken simply shifts from a familiar food into a more convenient package. And when normal routines have already been disrupted, having a meal that doesn't create another new problem is an advantage in itself. Before buying a large quantity, try a few products. Texture, moisture, and seasoning can vary considerably between varieties. Trying them first helps you identify the one that fits the way your family actually eats, instead of discovering too late that no one likes the entire case of chicken you stored. If the goal is to pair it with several other foods, a neutral flavor is usually more valuable than one that's heavily seasoned. It gives you more ways to use it. With a tortilla today, crackers tomorrow, and beans or soup another time. Package size should also match the number of people in your household. When you don't have a working refrigerator, a small pouch that can be finished in one meal may sometimes be more practical than a larger, cheaper can that leaves behind leftovers that are difficult to store. Keep unopened products in a dry place, away from prolonged high temperatures, and follow the storage instructions on the label. There's no need to turn storing this food into a complicated system. The easier it is to include in the foods your family already uses every day, the easier it will be to rotate. Canned chicken doesn't need a survival image to prove its value. Its value lies in how ordinary it is. A familiar source of protein that's easy to pair with other foods and creates almost no additional friction at mealtime. 6. Nuts. There are times during a disruption when you don't need something that looks like a complete meal. You just need something you can put in a pocket, carry with you, and eat while you're on the move. That's when nuts serve their exact purpose. Almonds, peanuts, cashews, walnuts, or mixed nuts all have one very practical advantage. They're compact, energy-dense, and require no utensils to eat. You can carry them while checking around the house, keep them in the car when you have to travel, put them in an evacuation bag, eat them while waiting, or quickly have some between moving supplies, organizing water, and handling other tasks. During those chaotic first few hours, mobility can sometimes matter more than sitting down for a complete meal. Nuts are well suited to exactly that kind of situation. They contain fat, some protein, and pack quite a lot of energy for their size. But with this food, I wouldn't focus too heavily on the nutrition label. Their greatest value lies in the fact that you can take them almost anywhere. However, a large bag also has one fairly obvious drawback. When you're tired or eating while doing something else, it's easy to keep reaching into the bag without noticing how much you've eaten. So one of the simplest things you can do is divide them into portions before an emergency happens. Instead of keeping one large bag for the entire household, divide it into several smaller bags. Each bag can represent one serving or one person's portion. This accomplishes three things at once. It helps control how much is used, makes it easier for each person to carry, and allows food to be distributed more quickly when everyone isn't in the same place. It's a small tip, but it works especially well with nuts because they're much easier to eat mindlessly than many other foods. Another thing to watch is salt. Salted roasted nuts may taste better, but eating a lot of them while water is being carefully rationed can make you feel thirstier. So if you're storing a large quantity, don't make every option an overly salty one. Keep them in sealed packaging, away from heat and high humidity. If you buy a large bag, dividing it into smaller portions after opening also prevents your entire supply from being exposed to air every time you use some. Nuts don't need to become a meal to prove their value. Sometimes, the ability to put food in your pocket and keep moving is what you truly need. And with this food, the smartest preparation should be done ahead of time. Divide it into smaller portions before the situation happens, so when you need it, you can simply grab it and go. 5. Energy bars, protein bars. There are times when you know you need to eat, but the situation doesn't allow you to stop and have a real meal yet. You're driving, waiting at an evacuation site, dealing with a problem at home, standing in line, or having to keep moving. That's the gap that energy bars or protein bars handle very well. They don't solve the entire day. They cover the time between when your body needs more energy and when the situation allows you to eat a proper meal. Single-serving packaging is part of what makes this food valuable. Each bar is already portioned, easy to carry in a pocket, easy to hand out to each person, requires no utensils, and doesn't force you to open anything else. Sometimes you don't lack food. You just lack the time or opportunity to use what you have. A can of soup may be sitting in storage. Tortillas and chicken may be in your supply bag. But if you're driving or can't stop yet, a small bar is much better suited to that moment. However, don't build your entire emergency food supply around protein bars. They should be a buffer, not the foundation for several days of eating. A bar can carry you through a few busy hours, but it can't replace the variety, moisture, and experience of a complete meal. When shopping, don't look only at the protein number on the label. Try them first. Some are too hard, too sweet, or crumble too easily. Some are fine for one bar, but by the second, you no longer want to eat them. If you're using them in an evacuation bag, choose bars with sturdy packaging and an easy-to-carry size. Also, don't leave them sitting in a hot car all year. Prolonged high temperatures can cause their quality to decline more quickly, so check and rotate them regularly. An energy bar doesn't need to feed you all day. It only needs to buy you a little more time until your next meal actually becomes possible. 4. Jerky has one very clear advantage. It puts protein into an extremely compact form that requires almost no additional preparation. It's lightweight, easy to carry, requires no utensils, and can be eaten immediately while you're on the move or unable to prepare a meal. But the way jerky is preserved also creates its biggest trade-off. Many varieties contain quite a lot of salt. That helps create flavor and supports the preservation process, but it can also make you feel thirstier when you eat it. What helps a food last longer sometimes increases what you need alongside it. With jerky, that's usually water. If your water supply is still plentiful, this isn't a major problem. But when every bottle of water has to be accounted for, relying too heavily on foods that are both dry and salty can make your water plan more difficult. Jerky is still very useful. It just needs to be used in the right role. A moderate amount can provide the protein to go with tortillas, crackers, or another snack. It also works very well in an evacuation bag because it takes up little space and creates almost no additional work. When shopping, don't look only at the protein number. Look at the protein, sodium content, and serving size on the label together. Two packages that look nearly identical can differ considerably in salt content. If your family likes jerky, dividing it into smaller portions ahead of time is also practical. You can control how much is used, carry it more easily, and avoid mindlessly eating too much directly from a large bag. For storage, keep it in a cool, dry place and follow the package instructions after opening. Different types of jerky may have different storage requirements and shelf lives, so don't assume they can all be stored the same way. Jerky deserves a place on this list because it provides protein in a very compact form. But it's a food that should be calculated together with water, not separately from your water plan. With a food as dry and salty as jerky, water shouldn't be something you account for later. It should be accounted for the moment you decide to store it. 3. Canned beans. Beans are a very clear example of how the same food can have a completely different practical value in an emergency, simply by changing its form. Dried beans are excellent for long-term storage. But in a situation where cooking isn't possible, canned beans solve a different problem. They're cooked before they reach the shelf. No soaking required. No heating required. No additional water needed to soften them. You can open the can and use them immediately. Another strength of canned beans is that one fairly simple food provides protein, carbohydrates, and fiber at the same time. Those three elements make them one of the more well-rounded options among ready-to-eat foods. But beans don't necessarily have to stand alone. Put them in a tortilla, and you immediately have a handheld meal. Pair them with chicken or tuna, and the meal becomes more substantial. Add them to a can of ready-to-eat soup or stew, and you can increase the amount of food without turning on the stove. If you're buying them for a no-cook food supply, cans with pull-tab lids are more convenient because you don't have to depend on a can opener. The can size should also match the number of people in your household. A large can may cost less per serving, but when you don't have a working refrigerator, the leftovers after opening create another problem. Canned beans also have a very clear advantage in terms of cost. Compared with many specialized emergency foods, they're usually easy to find, reasonably priced, and can go straight into everyday meals. That makes rotation very simple. Eat the older cans first. Add new cans behind them. You don't have to buy a food meant only for emergencies and leave it forgotten for years. If your family needs to watch its salt intake, simply compare labels and choose an appropriate option. There's no need to make that the main focus of this food. The most important thing to remember is still the form. Dried beans and canned beans may start with the same ingredient, but without a working stove, they don't provide the same level of usability. Canned beans provide protein, carbohydrates, and fiber in a pre-cooked form that can be opened and used immediately without requiring you to spend additional water or fuel. 2. Pouched tuna. Salmon. It may be the same tuna, but the way it's packaged can completely change how you use it in an emergency. A can of fish and a pouch of fish may contain very similar food, but if one requires a can opener while the other can simply be torn open by hand, then the level of access is completely different. That's why packaging should also be considered part of your emergency supply plan. Pouched tuna, salmon, or certain other types of fish are usually lightweight, flat, and easier to fit into an evacuation bag than cans. Most importantly, you don't have to carry a separate tool just to get the food out. A missing can opener may sound like a small issue, but if it's the only thing standing between you and your meal, you've created another unnecessary dependency. A food that's only easy to use when you have the right tool still comes with conditions for access. Pouches eliminate most of that problem. Tear it open. Eat. No additional tools required. Afterward, the empty pouch also takes up less space than an empty can. A small but useful advantage when carrying space is limited. The fish inside still provides protein and can be eaten directly if the product is labeled fully cooked and ready to eat. But nutrition isn't the most important point here. The important point is that you can access the food the moment you need it. A pouch of tuna can go into a tortilla, be eaten with crackers, combined with canned beans, or simply opened and eaten on its own when you don't have time to turn it into another meal. The serving size should also match the number of people eating it. A pouch that's just enough for one meal is usually easier to manage when you don't have a refrigerator to store what's left. If you buy several pouches for storage, don't look only at the date on the package. Check the seals and surface of the pouch from time to time. If it's punctured, leaking, or shows anything unusual, it's no longer a reliable part of your emergency supply. And pouches aren't always better than cans. Cans can still work very well for a fixed emergency supply at home. But when you need to travel, reduce weight, or reduce the number of tools you have to carry, pouches have a very clear advantage. Preparedness isn't just about having food. It's also about reducing the number of conditions required for you to access that food. 1. Peanut butter. Peanut butter has one advantage that's difficult to ignore. There's almost no barrier between you and the energy inside it. No stove needed, no water needed, no can opener needed, no heating required. Open the lid, and it's ready to eat. Peanut butter also packs a considerable amount of energy into a relatively small amount of food. Spread it on a tortilla or crackers, and you can make the portion much more substantial without adding any cooking steps. It's also very easy to pair with other foods. You can use it with tortillas, crackers, or eat it with a serving of canned fruit for added sweetness and moisture. But that's only half the reason it deserves the number one spot. The other half is familiarity. This isn't a food that many people have to wait until the power goes out to learn how to use. You usually already know whether you prefer smooth or crunchy, what you eat it with, and what portion works for you. When the situation is already stressful enough, a food that doesn't require you to adapt any further has value of its own. So choose the kind your family actually eats, not a product that simply looks like survival food. If you don't normally like a product, it's difficult to expect that you'll suddenly want to eat it during a stressful situation. The jar size should also match how you actually use it. Several medium or small jars may be easier to rotate than one very large jar. Keep unopened jars in a cool, dry place and follow the manufacturer's instructions after opening. Looking back at the entire list, each food solves a different weakness. Peanut butter doesn't do all of those things best, but very few foods have all four of these qualities at once. High in energy, familiar, easy to pair with other foods, and requiring almost no conditions before you can start using it. After all, what matters isn't how much food you have in the house, but how much of it remains usable when electricity, cooking, or water becomes limited. You don't need to buy all 12 items immediately. Look at your current pantry and find the most obvious gap. If the power went out tonight, would you have enough food that you could open and eat right away? If you had to leave home quickly, would what you have actually be convenient to carry and use? A good emergency supply doesn't have to be perfect. It only needs to solve in advance the problems you don't want to deal with once everything has become more difficult. Of today's 12 items, which one is currently missing from your pantry? Share it in the comments.